So can everyone hear me? And then can everyone see me?
I'm on the.
Are we good?
Yes, now it's good. Yes.
Okay,
You can start. Can you share your screen? Can you share your screen? Do you have any slide deck you'd like to share?
This is going to be me. I'm just going to talk to you guys.
Okay.
Just
Okay, great.
as a one-to-one, that's okay.
Okay, great. So please go ahead.
I am really excited to be with you all. I'm actually in Colorado right now at a conference with secondary principals across us. I want to talk to you today around something that's very close to my heart and one of the reasons why I started education, which is the idea of what does it mean to have a support life? And so one of the reasons why I started getting for education, my background is I'm a former teacher, so I taught high school biology and statistics. I am a researcher. I work on the impact of COVID on society. Sorry. But yes, I'm a published researcher on well-being and the impact of it on teaching and learning. And then I also am a former EdTech CEO, so I spent the last 4 years working at a. I am not Marocaine, but it's been a fascinating time because we have always talked about the promise of education. Because since the dawn of the internet and computers and smartboards, we have said that there's this opportunity to personalize learning for students, to create systems or equitable systems of access. And what we have found is that that has not been the case. And when the origin story for AI for education is that when ChatGPT first hit the market, I, of course, like everybody, or not everyone, personal in the very early adopter phase, but I looked at ChatGPT and I was like, what did I really dislike doing as both a teacher and as a curriculum writer? And what it came down to is I hated writing rubrics. And so I don't know if anybody here has also disliked writing rubrics, but I had ChatGPT write me a rubric and one prompt. And not only did it write me a beautiful rubric, but it also formatted it in a chart. And it was at the moment and that I had two immediate thoughts. That one is that this is a truly disruptive technology that has been coming and we've been talking about for time. And that two, that we were going to have significant difficulty in adopting it as an education system. Because we are, as education is a very complex sexual environment, we talk about there's no one size fits all, but also we have a technically underskilled professional staff. We have very slow to change and risk-averse organizations that support education. So created AI for education to help with that adoption curve. What's really important, I think that the reason why I want to talk to you specifically around responsible adoption of AI is that right now, generative AI is the worst it will ever be. In this moment, every day we have Cloud 2 that launched this week, with that updates to Bard, ChatGPT 3.5 is now Turbo. We have all these wonderful steps forward, but in reality, it is the worst it will ever be, and it's also in a position which it is not fit for purpose for schools, and I can't underline that enough. While I am a proponent, and I'm actually optimistic proponent of the opportunities of generative AI models, right now we have to be very, very cautious about how we support and implement AI. So for example, what we think about as a framework, we call the 3 E's. The 3 E's of responsible adoption are, it needs to be equitable, it needs to be equitable, and it needs to be effective. And so these 3 E's are how to create and support, whether it's schools, districts, nonprofits, and institutions, to help to really frame what it means to adopt AI responsibly, not only in education, but across the world. So I'm going to focus on the first E right now, which is this idea of equitable. And so you may be aware of how models are trained. So we have large language models, like ChatGPT is the most popular, and it's been trained on billions of parameters, so billions of pieces of data from all over the internet, and it is the internet. And so for just today, Stable Diffusion, yesterday the CEO of Stable Diffusion, which is a creates essentially text like image. They trained their model on completely kind of stolen photos. They just scraped the entire internet or used this open source tool, and regardless of copyright, they just took it. You have OpenAI was trained on Enron papers and Reddit. We have all kinds of data that was brought in, both in terms of, and that's like data that is biased, can be unethical, racist, misogynistic, all kinds of parts of the internet that we don't love, but also it's been built on other people's work. And so we're in this position right now where we have a couple of things on. One is algorithmic bias. So in the sense of the way that these systems have been trained, if you ask good questions, so there was a recent article that was published that when you ask Stable Diffusion again to show you images of certain types of, people in professions like CEO, judge, person in prison, etc., what they found was that it was extremely biased, heavily biased towards white. In fact, when they asked it for judges in the US, it came up with 3 women in the entire 100 judge photos, and in fact, 34% of women are judges. And so 30%, 40% of judges are women. And so we have these kind of deep algorithmic biases. They're also we're talking internationally. I love this beautiful international piece. It is also extremely westernized in the content it's been looked and trained on. And so there are huge gaps in its ability to have like responses that are culturally responsive and appropriate. And so when we think about this, so we have the ethics behind how it's been trained, the plagiarism and the copyright infringement. You have the ethical questions around algorithmic bias. There's a lot of really important levels in which we need to come together and start to create regulations. And right now, the EU has regulations, but many other countries, including the US where I am, are behind. So we need to come together and actually think through what is the appropriate ethical use of these systems, especially as they are thought about and applied in schools. And so one of the we really think schools and systems to be able to control access to data, to ensure that privacy is forefront, including student privacy, but also that we have this really goal towards creating new models that are significantly more ethical. And so, for example, Claude is one that is trained on the principles that are designed to support, ethical, human-focused development. That's a great start, but we are really far behind. Number 2 is this idea of equitable. And so it is really interesting right now of how some, we have BART is only available in some places. You have the same thing with ChatGPT and other tools. There's still questions about that ability to actually access these systems equitably across in Morocco, across the world. So that's really an important approach we need to think about, that we are ensuring that there is low bandwidth or no bandwidth opportunities for students and teachers and schools to be able to access these large language models to support learning in an equitable fashion. But also when you think about it, it needs to be able to compliance to students that have disabilities, students that have neurodivergence from different backgrounds. Like we said before, it's very difficult to have a bot. If you've done lesson planning or you've been working with these chatbots, it's very difficult to have a differentiated instruction based on the types of students that exist. So an English language learner or a student with dyslexia. And so it's important for us to think of the models and how we can support not only the access to them, that equitable access, but also things like time forward. And so I think that's really a big question that we want. And one of the pieces that runs through all of these 3 is this idea of human-centered. So we want this to be something in which we're designing these models for people, not for corporations, not for people making money. And so that leads me to my last point, which is this idea of effective. And so I don't know if anyone is using ChatGPT for their own work, but you probably know that there is something called hallucination. Hallucinations are when these predictive models essentially tell you something is true when it is not. And there have been instances in which lawyers have been disbarred and or have been fined, same thing with doctors, where they have used ChatGPT or other tools to write papers or case briefs, and it has completely made up citations. And so when we talk about effective, it needs to, number one, we need to have a real unified approach to lowering hallucinations, and also being able to have a system identify how, a degree of confidence in which these responses, these models believe that they are true. And so that's something that we really would like to see in any kind of model that is going to be used in context. And then also in terms of effective, there are really amazing opportunities for personalized learning, and I think we're potentially between 8 and 12 years, or 10, 12 months away from having deep machine learning and generative AI tools that can support personalized learning and tutoring. But right now, we're really kind of using these ChatGPT tools that are, again, predictive models that are not fit for purpose for schools. So, for example, I don't know if everyone is familiar with the organization Moulay-Ismaïl, but they are launching the first large language model that is focused purely on the education context, that is creating guardrails around safe, appropriate language. And so if a student asks about how to build a weapon, you can go to Khan and have it do, Khan Academy's tutoring agent, because it's built on ChatGPT. You kind of get around it and have it do how to do that. But you can't throw the mind of creating guardrails in which that is deemed inappropriate or unsafe, and students will not be able to ask those questions. Also, the idea of lowering pollutants is very important. Students and teachers can rely on that tool to be correct, and not only look correct, but be correct. And then finally, this idea around being able to use the right types of data to train the model. So in Morocco, wherever we are, we have digitized communities of focusing around curriculum or content, and that the idea of being able to access those as your training data instead of the internet is something that's really going to help with those safe, effective tools. So all that being said is that we have a lot to go. When we really think about the opportunities, I kind of always want to start on, lead on the strength-based approach, is that while we do have a long way to go in generative AI, is the worst it will ever be today, it is pretty amazing. And I want to give a couple of anecdotes of how I have seen it light up people's eyes and how it's helped educators across the US and also UK and Australia in a couple of ways. One is that it can lower the amount of time the teacher or administrator is spending on tasks outside of the classroom. And we see in the US, between 10 and 12 hours a week off of their instructional time, just doing planning, grading, marking, etc. And so we know that through the conversations that we have, that when teachers and educators are able to access great prompts and great tools, they're able to collapse the amount of time it takes them to create really both effective but engaging content for students. And also even I just was talking literally today to a principal that is using it to do grant letters to help fund their school, and something that was extremely important to them is something that they're able to do more quickly and effectively. So that's one. In other cases, what we're seeing is that there's this opportunity for students to take advantage of what would consider something that is very expensive, which is one. So, for example, there is a marking tool that is in the UK that's focused on exams and exams related to college. And the person that created it thought it would really be for teachers and help them, but what they actually found is for students. The students were accessing this at 12 o'clock at night when a teacher wasn't available and getting immediate, customized, directed feedback to them. And then they were refining their approach and doing this over and over again. And I think that this is the power of picking democratizing access to, one-on-one personalized tutoring and or support that has not existed outside of can afford one-on-one tutoring. So there's been some really beautiful tools of this, and I know and talk to EdTech founders every day that there are new tools coming and there are real opportunities for us to come together and create a better system and a system in which students really can thrive and teachers can focus on what matters most, which is the classroom. But there is absolutely a long way to go in terms of ensuring that we do this in a responsible way. And so I hope that we can all come together, whether it's here, all of us are together, or within your own community, thinking about those 3 E's. Is it equitable? Is it effective? Is it ethical? If it's not, let's send letters to pledges. Let's put positive pressure and even negative pressure on OpenAI and other organizations to access to these tools to ensure to have fit for purpose, safe, and responsible AI. And I just really, hope that everyone has a beautiful rest of your day and love that we're all here together. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Always happy to, I'm in the US, but always happy to have an international network that's focused on this important topic. So thank you so much and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Professor Bickerstaff.